should be live. Maybe. Yep. Perfect. Our audio is live. Now we just need to put our faces on there. There we go. We should be live now. So everybody should be able to hear us. I'm going to check Facebook just to make sure it is up and running, but it should be. So you can say hi.
Hi, everybody. Sorry we're late. Just trying to set up the tent and everything for the morning service and just lost track of time.
Yep.
But we're here.
I asked, and someone said it was 9. And I was like, oh, whoops. So.
I wasn't going to throw you under the bus, but.
No, it was mine. But yeah, we are good to go this week. If you weren't able to, last week we, if you jump on, make sure our audio is good and everything. Feel free to tell us that if something needs to change. Take my hat off here, but my hair, it's COVID hair. You know Bobby Brown, Coach Brown for most people. Right, yeah. That's how I know him, but some people know him as Bobby. I get in trouble. But anyway, he texted me like a month ago, and he's like, "What are you doing with your hair?" He goes like, he wanted to know my secret because I guess he wanted fuller hair. I told him I think that he has to go back a few years.
Yeah.
So.
I lost that fight a while ago. So.
So yes, but we are back. We are in our 3rd week here at church on our We Are Villa series.
Yep.
And so, is that correct? 3rd week or 2nd?
Yeah. It's 3rd under the tent.
So 2nd week of We Are Villa. So that's
right,
where I got mixed up.
That's right. Yeah, we did a
one
shot.
So we did a one shot first under the tent. So it's our 2nd week of the We Are Villa series.
Right.
Super excited about that. I am, even though I don't know what week it is, just because. I don't know.
Hey, it's going.
It's exciting to be out in the tent. So at least the 3rd week, it wasn't like crazy. You know, we have been out in the tent for 3 weeks.
Right. I think RT's going to break out the snakes today.
Snakes? Okay. I didn't know about snakes, so that's news to me.
Right.
He doesn't tell me his weird ideas.
Yeah.
Because then I don't know. Anyway, last week, though, here for our Sunday conversations, what we were able to do, and we decided to do this like a 2-parter type of thing, where we wanted you to get to know us a little bit more in our story. There are some of you who knew me growing up through Villa, through some of the aspects there, but there were some that don't, some that are still new and didn't know that story. So we talked a little bit about my history, my story, and again, not to elevate me, and today not to elevate you, but to show you that God uses broken people.
Yeah.
My favorite line right now, and has been for a couple years now, is God can draw straight lines with crooked sticks. So, and then the idea is I've got a lot of twists, and God was molding me and shaping me and moving me around, but yet He somehow builds His plan with that. So, when we give testimonies or histories, we're not trying to, bring us like, oh, how great of people we are, but show you how God can use us and how God can use you. Through that, if you're willing to submit, we can sometimes give you some examples of when you don't submit, what God will do.
Yeah.
But and we hope not to glorify those, but to show you that that's not the way to do it, and there's a better way. So today I'm going to keep trying to check back and forth to see if we have comments. Emma says hi.
Hi.
So
Emma.
hi, Emma.
She was throwing axes yesterday.
She was throwing axes. Yes, I saw that. I happened to see she got a bullseye.
That's right.
Right in the middle, and had video proof. Because would we have believed Emma? I would have.
Eventually, I would have believed her.
Yes.
I would have given her a hard time.
Yes. So she's got video proof. You can check it out on Facebook.
Right.
She's hit the bullseye there. So, good morning to you. But let's go ahead and get started. So, beginning. I don't know. I don't even know all of your story. So you're going to have to help me navigate this a little bit. I mean, I've obviously got some questions like, did you grow up in a Christian home?
Yes. Was born and raised here in Indianapolis,
Okay.
Community East.
Okay.
That's where I was born. We lived on the east side for about 3 years, and then we moved down to Franklin Township.
Okay.
My parents have been in that house for 41 years now.
Okay.
So I don't even remember the old house except for when I almost died, but that's another story. And then, yeah, raised in a Christian home. It was both of my parents came from the back hills of Kentucky.
Okay.
And so it was very old-fashioned, KJV only.
Hymns.
Yep. It was, I think at our peak, the church was 65 people.
Okay.
And the pastor he was bivocational, had about 6 or 7 sermons, and that's pretty much it.
Yep.
He just recycled those, and I was not saved. And usually I tried to find new and inventive ways to sneak a book in. I'd sit in the back row and I'd read.
Okay.
Because my parents didn't make us all sit together. None of my brothers got saved growing up. One brother is saved now, but he was in his 40s before he got saved,
Okay.
and the other one still isn't.
So let me stop there for a second. So you have 2 brothers. Is that do you
Yes,
have any sisters?
No, I am the youngest of 3 brothers.
Youngest of 3.
Yeah.
Okay.
I remember one time I was like 12, and they opened up the altar because that was something that they did. Like you couldn't just go down on any given Sunday; they'd have to
Okay.
open it up. It would, yeah. And I remember I was too shy to say no to her because she walked up and said, "Do you want to go down to the altar?"
And who was this?
It was just one of the old lady in the
Okay.
church.
Yep.
I don't even remember her name now. And so I went down, and I remember crying out that I didn't want to go to hell, but I had no real understanding that I was a sinner, that I needed saving, and so I was down there for about 15 minutes. My legs went to sleep, and then I stumbled back to a pew afterwards.
Yeah.
Later on, I was like 16 or 17, same thing. My dad came up to me, and where I was too shy to say no to that old lady, I said no to my dad.
Interesting.
Because I was a teenager.
Sure.
But yeah, it was, whenever I turned 18 and graduated high school, I had no intention of ever stepping foot in the church again. I remember telling my mom that I can't believe in something if I can't see it.
Yeah.
And so that was it. So, graduate high school, went down to Franklin College for a year, and I just didn't know how to study.
Okay.
And so I was able to get by in high school. I never did homework, but I'd ace the test, so I get B's.
Yep.
So I got like straight B's, and I was fine with that. And I scored high enough on the SAT that Franklin College gave me a scholarship, and
Okay.
so I didn't have to go to IUPUI. So like, okay, I'll go there.
Yeah.
Not because I had any love for the campus or anything.
Yeah.
It was a nice campus, but and then I just didn't know how to study. Got caught up in the freedom. Wasn't drinking.
Okay.
I remember thinking at the time, I want to be able to tell my kids I didn't drink till I was 21.
Okay.
And I could think that far ahead. I knew I wanted to get married. I knew I wanted kids, and I wanted to be able to not lie to my kids.
Sure.
So, wasn't drinking then. So I didn't get. It was just the freedom.
Yeah.
I skipped too many classes. Didn't know how to study. Ended up with a C average, so I lost my scholarship.
Okay.
I couldn't afford Franklin.
Yeah.
Without that scholarship. So, basically worked for 2 years.
Okay.
One of those years was at Chuck E. Cheese. That was my first job. Chuck
There
E.
you
Cheese
go.
Greenwood.
There's probably some stories there.
Oh,
Another day.
yeah. Yeah, I dressed up as Chucky, and yeah. There was always that one kid that thinks it's funny to hit Chucky. But anyway, but throughout all that, I remember my room was in the basement, and so I would purposely, my parents always left for church at 10.
Okay.
And I would wake up at like 9:15, and I would just lay in bed until I knew my parents were gone. Then I'd get up, and just
Just so you didn't have to deal with hey, do you want to go to church?
Right.
Yeah.
So did that. So that was about 2 years. Started working at a school, and that's where I kind of remembered, I went to Franklin College to be an elementary teacher.
Okay.
I've always wanted to be a teacher.
Okay.
God put that in me even before I was saved. So 2 years go by. I worked a year at that school, and that kind of reignited. Okay, I need to get serious about this. So applied, got into Ball State, transferred up there, and started out elementary there, and then I started working with kids.
Yeah.
I can play with kids.
Yeah.
I can't teach kids.
Okay. It's a different
It is
thing.
totally different. Yeah. And it was up there. I remember I moved in with 6 of my friends. I was also involved in, it's called the International Order of Malay. It's like the Masonic youth group.
Okay.
For boys.
Interesting.
Yeah. And I remember, when I started with that, I was nervous ordering at a fast food place.
Okay.
And by the end of that experience, I was giving speeches to 200 people and not batting an eye.
Oh, wow.
No, Masons, DMLA have a lot of issues with it.
Sure. Okay.
I didn't know that at the time. I wasn't saved. But I do credit them with a lot of my public speaking skills and organizational skills. I mean, it did have a big impact on my life.
Yeah.
I was the vice president of the state at one point, and then I got kicked out of office.
Okay.
There's a lot of these long side stories.
Yeah, those
but
are
anyway. But was going to be president before I got kicked out. So, but that was, basketball was your world.
Yep.
Last week.
Yep.
DMLA was my world.
Okay.
That was, all my friends were in there.
Yep.
The friends in high school that I still talk to, they were all in DMLA with me. That was my world.
Yeah.
So God he took that away.
Yeah.
And so that led me, I moved up to Ball State, was with friends. I hit 21, and I pretty much said, okay, I can tell my kids I didn't drink till I was 21. So then I started drinking.
Floodgate open.
Right.
Yeah.
And you go up to Ball State, started working at, it's called the Youth Opportunity Center.
Okay.
It's working with at-risk teens.
Okay.
I was working a second shift. So, take classes in the morning, work, and then I get off work at 11 p.m., very stressful job.
And then you're going to go join all your friends.
And then I drink
Yep.
quite a bit. And so that just kept getting worse and worse. There's a bar up there that actually has my name on it because they had a challenge. If you drink 100 different beers in 6 months, you'd get your name on the bar. So
there you go. So your name's there.
It's still up there. And so that was my pattern. And I was absolutely miserable.
Yeah.
John 6:44 says that no one can come. Jesus is talking here, and he says, "No one can come to me unless the Father who sent me first draws them."
Yep.
I felt drawn back to the church. I can't explain it other than that. Because again, 18, no intention. Slept in, had
skipped it all.
Did not want to go.
Yep.
But I just kept feeling drawn back to the church.
Yep.
And it was one of 2 times in my life that I was suicidal. Was in that period, I was drinking. I had my friends, even though my best friend through high school, and it's just, again, guys living together.
Yeah.
I took a swing at him. We started fighting, and our relationship's never been as good since then. We're both Christians now, but he lives down in Alabama. And so I was miserable.
Yeah.
And got off second shift, made the switch to third shift, and there was an older lady. I say older, I mean, I was in my early 20s. She was in her probably 40s.
Okay.
And we just started talking, and she started witnessing to me.
Yeah.
And then there were 2 other guys about my age. They started witnessing to me. And, it was some good conversations. And so finally, they invited me to go to their church.
Now that switch to third shift, did that help with the drinking and the partying and the other stuff, or? Because I'm thinking, the timing. I don't know. Like, obviously, you're not going to go party and then go to work.
Well,
probably.
I tell you what. Towards the end of second shift, I got in a supervisor's position.
Okay.
So I was responsible for 140 kids, about 40 staff. I was the one who put out the fires,
Yep.
which didn't help the drinking.
Sure.
But my usual routine was to go, and the bar that always, it was more a tavern than a bar.
Yeah.
That's why I went there. Never did like the college bar scene. But I'd get a pizza,
Okay.
and I'd eat a whole pizza and drink.
Yep.
So I usually wasn't, I didn't get that drunk.
Yeah.
Well, it just happened to be a really crazy night. And so I said, one of the cottages that I'd been putting fires out all night long, I told them, hey, first round's on me.
Okay.
And so we go, and I got the pizza, but I split it with them.
Yep. Yep.
And
Bad night.
yeah, it was, had I been pulled over,
Yep.
I would have got a DUI.
Sure.
Made it home and like stumbled to bed, and then an hour later I wake up and I throw up.
Yep.
Because I was just that
Sure.
drunk.
Sure.
I think that was kind of the first. There was, and again, looking back, it's God.
Sure.
But God was pointing. Okay, that was my low point. I'm like, I'd always kind of been responsible beforehand. Now that was whenever it's at the bar, we were drinking all the time at the house. On top of that,
Sure.
so there was that. There was just basically that supervisor's position had kind of become my focus. And so, I'd taken a semester off from college, and,
Okay.
and I wanted to get back into, at that point, I'd made the switch to secondary education, and I'm like, I need to buckle down, and I need to get my degree.
Yep.
So that's what prompted that shift to third.
Okay.
So get to third, they're witnessing to me, they invite me, and my girlfriend at the time, we go, and it was an Assemblies of God church.
Mhm.
They had evening services on Sunday. And that particular Sunday, they just happened to have a dinner instead of a service.
Okay.
And you know me, I'll never turn down food. But I wanted a service. Again, God was drawing me.
Yeah.
And so she knew, my girlfriend knew some people, and there was a Baptist church across the road. And so we go over there, and it just happened to be when they were starting their VBS.
Okay.
But they had an adult class all week long,
Okay.
so that way, parents drop off the kids,
Yep.
there's something for them too. Well, I can't explain it. I think like 3 or 4 of the nights, my girlfriend at the time couldn't make it, but I
Kept going.
kept going. And I knew some of the, I'd grown up in the church, I knew the basic answers
Yep.
just by osmosis. But 2 things really prepared my heart for that week. The first was my mom was diagnosed with lupus.
Okay.
Now, it ended up being a false diagnosis. It's a thyroid issue that she's still dealing with. But we didn't know it at the time. And the second thing was there was a lady there at that class who had stage 4 cancer. And all our days are numbered.
Yep.
But her days were numbered in the double digits.
Yep.
Like she knew she was going to die.
Yep.
And she was laughing, and she was content,
Yep.
and she knew exactly where she was going.
Yeah.
And that just struck such a chord with me with everything that was going on in my life. And so we go, and it was the last day of the VBS, and the leader and he explained it later. I mean, it was just on a whim. He asked me if I was saved, and I said no.
Yeah.
And I can still remember the audible gasp in the class because everybody just assumed because I knew
Yeah.
a lot of the answers. And so, to his credit, he stopped it right then and there. He had somebody like his assistant teach the class. He pulled me and my girlfriend in a side room, and it was there that I surrendered to Christ.
Wow.
But I didn't know anybody at that church. I went
Yeah.
there for a couple of weeks. Again, my experience was tiny church, which even at one point my dad caught the treasurer embezzling funds.
Yep.
And so that caused a big split in the church because 3/4 of the family, or 3/4 of the church was one extended family.
Yep.
And so there was a big split, so it was even smaller than that. And I'd never been to a big church before.
Okay.
And so it was so much of a culture shock,
Yep.
and I didn't know anybody there.
Yep.
That I ended up, and it wasn't too long after that I broke up with my girlfriend. And it wasn't too long after that I ended up going to the Assemblies of God Church because I knew some people there.
Sure.
The two guys that had been
Yeah, you had
witnessing
your
to
friends
me.
there, yeah.
And so I started going over there. Looking back now, there were a lot of things that I disagree with, but I was a brand new believer.
Absolutely.
And so, you know, there was some hokey stuff going on. I remember the college group. I joined that, and they were going through the prayer of Jabez. Do you remember that?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. No, it was bad.
Yep. Yep.
Now, the youth pastor himself, who was responsible for the college group, great guy.
Okay.
I'd take a bullet for him today.
Yep,
he
sure.
performed the ceremony for my wife and I. But it was at that church that I met Amanda.
Okay, I was going to say, where did you meet Amanda?
Right. And so for the first 6 months or so, I'd been kind of interested in her, but I never really said anything.
Yeah.
And then we just started talking and started hanging out as friends. And at first, she wasn't interested in me.
Now, was she going to Ball State also?
No.
Or? Okay.
No.
Okay.
She had gone like a year and a half to USI.
Okay.
And then had dropped out and was working in a dental office. And that's pretty much all she's done since then.
Yeah.
So met her. We started talking, hanging out. Eventually, I worked my magic, and so we started dating.
You got lucky.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I worked my magic.
Yeah.
I like that part.
I know you like to think that. We all like to think.
Right. So it was around that time that I was doing my student teaching.
Okay. So you're still going to college.
Right.
You're still finishing up your degree in teaching.
Right.
So.
Working third shift. During student teaching, I only worked third shift on the weekends, so that was fun. But that gave me a lot of time to grade stuff. And
Yep.
Yeah. So then graduated right after that. Moved down to Indy. Amanda and I got married that following summer, and then again I just floundered.
Yeah.
Started teaching at it was an at-risk center for teens.
Okay.
Or drug rehab center for teens. It was on the north side, so I was teaching there. But again, I was the only teacher, so it was more tutoring, coordinating with their homeschools kind of thing. And so I just, again, wasn't really growing. Had a desire for more. We started going to an Assemblies of God church down here in Indy. And that's where we got married. It's used to be called Parkway, but it's called something else now.
Okay. Well,
Thompson, like where Thompson crosses 65, it's
Okay.
right there.
okay.
Like just down the road from Rock
Okay.
Holly a little bit. But
Okay.
anyway,
Okay.
wasn't getting fed there.
Yep.
There was just some shenanigans going on that just kind of led me to. It was probably the first time in my life after I got saved where I just had no desire. I had no desire to go there.
Yeah.
But Amanda is a creature of habit, and so that's where we were going, and
Yep.
so that was some
Okay.
tension between us. So started looking at some different churches, and then finally started going to Grace Evangelical.
Okay.
It's at the corner of Arlington and Southport.
Yep. Yep.
It's been renamed now, but and so it was at that church that I really started, for the first time in my life, had someone teach deep things of Scripture.
Yep.
I was getting meat.
Yep.
And I was, I was dog paddling. I
Sure.
couldn't swim.
Yeah.
I was just basically trying to not drown. But, and this is just the way I've always been, if I don't understand something, I try to work hard to understand it.
Yep.
And so I finally had somebody who was pushing me to grow in my faith, and I started meeting with that teacher one-on-one, His name's Rick Kramer, and it was at that point that, well, number one, my own walk exploded, but that's where my love for discipleship
Okay.
started. Um, so he was teaching me on Sunday mornings, and then obviously there was the regular service, which
Sure.
again, that pastor was really deep. Um, and then we were meeting one-on-one each week, and he was asking me accountability questions
Yep,
and
yep.
memorizing verses, and it was the first time I would ever have someone hold me accountable.
Okay.
Um, and so after doing that for about a year or so, he's like, hey, you should probably, you've got enough of a foundation now that you should probably start teaching people.
Okay.
He knew I was a teacher.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so started out working with the teens, just had a small discipleship group, but that discipleship group was, one's a lawyer, another is a university professor.
Okay.
Just
Yeah.
one is, I think he's either going for his PhD or has his PhD from Dallas Seminary.
Okay.
It was just, again, God blessed me with a group
Yeah.
that
Push
wanted
you,
to be
yep.
pushed,
Yep.
was smart enough to understand.
Yep.
And so literally, what I was being taught by Rick, I was teaching them the next week.
Yep.
But the best way to learn something is to teach it.
Absolutely.
And I've always believed that, and yeah. So, and it was at that point, going through that process, working, that I think for the first time in my life, I started feeling the call towards the pastorate.
Okay.
And so had always kind of in the back of my mind wanted to do the National Guard. My brother had done it. My oldest brother, middle brother was a Marine.
Okay.
My dad served in Vietnam.
Yep.
Grandfather Korea. There's just a long line in my family of that service. And so that had been in the back of my mind, but 9/11 or in Iraq,
Yep.
that happened right when we got married.
Okay.
And so Amanda put her foot down.
I was like, no.
She was new.
Yeah.
Not going to happen.
Absolutely.
But again, that had always been in the back of my mind. So I was doing some research, and I saw that there was a position called a chaplain assistant.
Okay.
And the senior pastor at that church was the state chaplain in the Indiana Army National Guard.
Okay.
So I approached him, and didn't have my seminary degree, wasn't sure how I was going to afford seminary. Just
Yep.
starting to feel this call, and so he told me about what's called the chaplain candidate program.
Yep.
Where basically you join, you come in as a officer. RT did it as well, while you're going through seminary, but you're being trained on how to be an officer, how to be
Yep.
a chaplain.
Yep.
And
Yep.
so eventually he got me in. I swore in September 29th, 2009.
Okay.
So that was, I consider that my first ministry.
Yep.
And so got to do that. I graduated from chaplain school 2011. Still going through seminary, got accepted at Liberty Baptist Theological Seminary.
Okay.
So I was taking classes online for all of that. And then about 6 months after I graduated from chaplain school, well, back up a couple months, that's whenever I became a youth pastor over at Hope Baptist Church on the west side,
Okay.
literally across the street from Ben Davis High School.
Okay.
So that was my first pastoral position, did that for 2 years.
Covenant Christian's just north of Ben Davis, right?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah. Actually, well, yeah, because that's Girls School Road.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We would play them in
Yeah.
basketball. So that's
Yeah.
why I knew it.
So you'd pass by that church.
Okay.
So it was about 6 months after I graduated from chaplain school. Best shape of my life.
Yeah.
I've always been a little husky.
Yeah.
We'll call husky.
Husky. That's a good
But
term.
best shape of my life, and playing basketball at it was a youth retreat. We were going down as a campground down around Bloomington, playing basketball, and go to jump to get a rebound, and
Which
tore my
part about it?
ACL.
ACL.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that was first ACL surgery.
How many have you had?
2.
Okay.
9 months after that surgery,
You had a baby?
Huh?
You had a baby?
No.
Oh.
No. Caitlin was born in 2006.
You said 9 months, so I thought maybe you had one.
No.
Okay.
9 months after the surgery, we're on a mission trip up in Canada.
Okay.
And we're going door to door. And the youth group had had MS, and so she had to be pushed around in a wheelchair. And this was the Canadian Rockies, so where the Rockies extend up there, so very hilly, and I was just pushing. And earlier that week, I'd been playing badminton, which is the Canadian summer sport. All 2 months of it.
Yeah.
And it had rained earlier in the day. Grass was a little slick, and I slipped and twisted my knee.
Again. Messed it up.
And I didn't really feel it then, but whenever I was pushing that wheelchair, it just exploded.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if it maybe got tweaked there, and then the pushing the wheelchair was what, or if I tore it then and didn't. I don't know. Anyway, same knee. It was a cadaver. We called it Hector.
Okay.
We called him Hector.
Interesting.
Hector tore. He failed me.
Okay.
So another round of surgery.
Yep.
This time his name's Leander. He's
Leander. Is he working?
So far? Yeah. So far.
Good.
Still aches when it's stormy or whatever, but already got arthritis. That's fun. So anyway, go through the rehab. Pretty much on what's called a permanent walking profile at that point. I can't run, and so I can run, but I'm going to feel it for 2 weeks after. So there's no way.
It's got to be an important reason to run.
Right, and I couldn't train to meet the Army standard.
I gotcha.
Because it was just so. Anyway, walking profile, and came time to promote, and that was when I was like 2014, 2015 when they were making all the cuts in the Army. And it was, they're not going to promote someone because there's only so many slots to fill.
Yep.
And they're not going to promote if they've got more people who can run and there's one guy who can't. I couldn't promote. I did everything I was supposed to do. My commander loved me. I've still multiple times been asked to come back. My knee, I can't do it because of my knee. So.
Amanda lets you go back.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Her attitude completely changed.
Okay.
Again, 2009, I would have never swore in without her support.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Everything was good. In the meantime, 2 years at Hope, there were some financial issues. They couldn't afford me, so they let me go.
Okay.
So
I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think there's going to be a lot left in this story from where you're at right now, where we've picked up. You're at Hope, you just got let go. You're in the military. It's probably coming to a different stance and everything else.
Right.
It's going to be a lot that start happening now in your life. I think just because we don't want to rush it, why don't we finish that up next week?
Okay.
Is that okay with you?
Yeah, it works.
Because I think I want to give some time for those things that I think there's some things in there that are gonna. I don't want to rush through them.
Yeah.
And so I think it'll be good. We can give some time next week to go ahead and finish that up, so people can know. I think that again, this is really kind of your first opening up, specifically to our church, just kind of an open slate. So I don't want to rush and blow through anything. So,
right.
We can try to remember. You'll have to help me. But we'll remember we're at Hope.
Just let go.
Hope, let go.
Right.
Military. Not really sure what's going on. There's some promotions, but you got your second knee replacement, and you're good to go so far.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So that's where we'll pick up next week.
Okay.
We'll do this again and just finish that up, and then give ample time for the rest of that story there. So
that'll work.
All right. We will see you guys at 11 a.m. here in just a little bit online at the YouTube Villa YouTube page, or the Villa Facebook page, or come and join us. We're outside. Hopefully everything's already set up and we don't have to do anything left when we get out there.
Hopefully.
It's not gonna be that way.
No.
All right. Love you guys. Talk to you later. Bye.